Brodie Hubbard, Gene George, Shakeytown Radio. It's
Something.
108 or something here in the Arizona studio. How is it in Burbank today? Studio.
Yeah, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not 108 in your studio.
Yeah.
Because I would say flee. This recording is not worth suffering severe heat stroke for. It's like a balmy 79 here. The weather has been very nice, like suspiciously nice here. Hang on, I'll tell you exactly what it is because I got a device that can tell me things like that. It was 79 degrees when I saw it last.
Yeah.
79 and sunny. Yeah, that's I can tell you I do not miss like Vegas summers, and it's even like 5-10 degrees hotter down there on average,
right
where you're at. So
right.
It's ridiculous.
What's been going on? What kind of response did you get from the show? Did we get any emails?
There have been some likes and things like that, but I don't see any responses on it. So nobody's got any questions. Why would they? Frankly, what we're very straightforward in terms of what we talked about. I think. I think we need to give it. I think we need to give it a little. We need to give it a little time for people.
I was expecting a little bit more of a backlash to some things I said, but flew by the radar, which is good. But I've kind of re-embraced my inner hater since starting this project again.
Yeah.
Just finding myself impatient and contemptuous of a lot of things I see online. I will say I'm having fun doing the horror content again. I think the last time we were on, I sounded a little bit resigned about it. And I've since then seen a movie I very much enjoyed called In a Violent Nature, and I reviewed that. And Morbidly Beautiful Network featured an interview I did with Josh Spiegel from Movie Timelines. That went up today, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember enjoying all this and why I like to do it. So that was nice. Yeah. But and I also saw Madam Web, which really reinvigorated my love for cinema.
I've heard it is the Citizen Kane of non-Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. Dakota Johnson is the Orson Welles of our time.
She is an auteur. She did write and direct that, right? And starred. Right.
It would have been interesting if she had. I also saw her in Suspiria, the 2018 version.
Right.
This week.
I was going to say, did she build a time machine and go back to 1970s Italy?
I ended up liking that a lot better than I thought too. Although,
how faithful is it to the original? I haven't seen the original in yonks.
Yeah, there's witches, and it's a dance studio. The three mothers, and other than that, it's a lot of Guadagino, I believe the last name is. It's one of those names I see written in
Gugino?
not, and I'm not somebody who seeks out his movies like Bones and All and Challengers. He's delightfully pretentious. Like I know that well, first of all, so the screenwriter, not a big fan of Suspiria, which is wild that he got the assignment for it.
Like why? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Pray continue. Pray continue. I'm going to put my microphone up because I'm going to have a few moments, I think, with this.
So, but so the director decides also that he's going to instill a lot of things that he wants to say more explicitly about femininity and motherhood and German guilt and the German autumn of the 70s, 77 specifically. And it's just really funny because it's like, I sensed a lot of, and I read this great article about the parallels between it and Possession, which is the early 80s movie filmed out of Poland, one of Sam Neill's first movies, which is about divorce and a monster and a lady going nuts on a milk bag in the subway. I don't know if you've seen it.
It sounds super familiar. I mean, that's the thing is when we were talking about horror movies and what I like and what you like and giving some cross recommendations, I realized I used to watch so many horror movies, and that sounds super familiar to me.
Yeah.
But
It's Kaylin Corrigan did a really great article for Shudder about Zulawski, who's the director of Possession, and Luca Guadagnino.
Carla Gugino
Yeah.
from Spy Kids.
Yes. I felt like this version of Suspiria was what Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem would have been had Rob Zombie had all the money and time that he had wanted to make it. He very notoriously got budget and time cut and had to cut a lot up. And because of those limitations, plus the restrictions he put on himself, saying, I'm going to shoot this movie the opposite of everything I would do otherwise. Like he likes handheld, he likes, gritty. With this, he has these big, more like Kubrick inspired shots and, camera setups. And it's beautiful. And I think Lords of Salem might be technically his best work, even if it's not the one that I have the most fun watching. It's still one of the ones I enjoy the most. Does that make sense? I do enjoy it, not as much as I might enjoy like a Devil's Rejects, but technically, like as an artist, artistically, I think it's his best work, maybe.
Well, was he at least able to burn through the witches in his Dracula?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then that's all you can really ask for a Rob Zombie project, right?
Absolutely. And so Suspiria,
that does make sense. No, I get what you're saying with
Suspiria 18.
Well, no, I mean with the Rob Zombie, he tried. He did something out of his way.
Oh, I think he did great. But I did a whole thing about I did an hour essay about his filmography. And I consider myself one of America's utmost Rob Zombie filmography experts now as a result. But he had the same influences that literally that Luca did, because they're looking at Argento and Zulawski for this. The difference is, Rob Zombie wants to tell a story and he wants to use iconography. And in that way, he's like Fulci, because Fulci has kind of set pieces and iconography that he then sets a story up around, whereas Argento has themes that he kind of wants to cover, and Dario Nicolodi, his partner in writing Suspiria and a lot of other things, they had themes that they wanted to go, and then the set pieces are built around the themes as opposed to the movie and script being built around the kills and stuff. And so Zombie might be more like Fulci in that sense, whereas I'm just going to call him Luca Carla Gugino, and the writer, the screenwriter of this, which had done some other work with him. So there are two gay men who wanted to specifically keep the male gaze, Gaze, out of this picture. They didn't want to over sexualize the characters because it's a girls' dance school, and but they wanted to cover the carnal nature of the dances and whatnot, right? So they end up they succeeded at that. They got all the stuff about German guilt and the autumn and all that in there, femininity, motherhood. Dakota Johnson, great performance. Mia Goth, and then that Tilda Swinton plays 3 different characters in it. It really mainly felt like a set piece. It mainly felt like a showcase for Tilda, but
Tilda Swinton is our generation's Peter Sellers now.
Yeah, exactly.
Move over, Mike Myers.
So yeah, it was good. It's a heavy movie and a 2.5 hour movie. And just as I wouldn't watch Possession again, I don't need to watch Possession again. It's not a popular
Right.
movie. I don't need to watch Suspiria 2018 again.
Yeah,
But
what did I start? I started something the other day and it was like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, yeah, that's not happening right now.
I mean, I don't mind 2.5 hours. I love Terrifier 2. That's a 2.5 hour.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And that's a thing that happened this week. There was Terrifier discourse once again on the timeline. Basically, people saying if you like gory movies, you're a bad person. It's just like a little. It's a very tiny fraction of people who pipe up about that, and then everybody else is like, "Shut up!" Like people who are like people who don't even like the Terrifier franchise, like swatted that down and said, "You know what?
Oh, good.
I might like a different brand of horror, a different flavor of horror, but no." My friends who like Art the Clown, they're fine. No.
Yeah, that I can't. Well, I can believe that that's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of thing could easily have been put to bed.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it didn't.
Yeah.
I don't. I my tastes have definitely changed, but I again, it's like I can appreciate it. Terrifier was very good of its type, and I could see if you don't like that, that's cool, but don't yuck anyone's yum if they like it,
Yeah.
you know. What was I gonna say about that? Anyway, I don't know.
There's just a lot of reductive film criticism. And so for instance, in A Violent Nature, I did like a good 12 minutes. I think it's a great 12 minutes on in that my review of it, analyzing the ins and outs. I loved it. My friend Roger Connors, who is currently finishing post-production on Meat, the movie, and hosts with our friend Troy Escamilla, the Dark Knight of the podcast. He wrote a review. He didn't like In a Violent Nature, but we were able to, both articulate our points, I think, intelligently. I'll speak, highly of myself there, but definitely Roger. Roger knows this stuff in and out. I then also saw a YouTube review of it where the people were just like, it was slow. And like, yeah, that's the point. And they're like, I think the director just got high and thought it would be a good idea. No, he worked really hard on this film and actually reshot it after having shot it once, seeing the principal photography and being like, no, this isn't accomplishing what I wanted to do. Going back with a new cast and new, location and doing it over. That's not somebody who got high. They even said that because there was no score in the movie, it was just diegetic music.
Ooh, very Dogma 95.
Yes. And they're like, it took me out of the picture. Like, I need the sound, and I need to hear like a scary, like, jump scare to know when it's scary. It's like, then you're dumb.
Well, and that's the thing is jump scares are the last refuge of a scoundrel. I mean, they have their place if you're setting something up, but if it's just jump scares, then
yeah.
It sounds like so my Fletcher, my 12-year-old boy, that sounds like his level of criticism. Or are you high? like no, like that's not like no. Yeah, that's not criticism. That's just, like you say, it's really reductive and kind of dumb.
Yeah. So you couple that with like the Madam Web discourse that I also got to see once I like got to enjoy the movie for myself.
Yeah.
And I was going into it knowing it was going to be big dumb fun, and that's what I had with it. But then seeing like the and I referred to this last week, the Wojaks and Soy Jacks of it all, and the manufactured outrage.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. And I've watched a couple of the critiques from some of the folks online that I appreciate, and I kind of see what they mean. But I think the most damning critique, and again, have not seen it.
Yeah.
The most damning critique that I think I would have noticed regardless of whether I heard it from a critic or not, is the ADR, is all of the ADR, because that I have, you know me, I have an ear for that sort of thing, and it would really start to bug me.
Oh yeah.
Just as a thing. I don't necessarily think it ruins a movie, but I sure as hell would have noticed that it's like every time someone's turned away, they suddenly have lots to say.
That, so when I worked in quality control in reality television, something we would look for is lip flap.
Yeah.
And it's where, when you put in a Frankenbite and you put that in, and if it doesn't, sometimes it's done weirdly, or they've removed audio, and then you have lip flap where somebody's literally going like,
yeah.
It's like we see them on screen. You had to look out for that stuff all the time. But yeah, and so ADR, and not in the sense that, if you're doing like a segment produced like competition show, like a Top Chef or something like that, there's something called wild lines where they dub in like Padma, right? The very
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Carla Gugino. She's the Carla. She really is the Carla Gugino of that show.
Yes, she is. She's going to record like different versions of saying.
Yeah, sure.
And they'll dub. That's fine.
Or you get something in the edit that needs to be explained, and I totally get that. Will Arnett on Lego Masters. It's because his voice is so distinctive, and it's obvious that they need to say something to the audience that may not be conveyed by the film, by the video. Totally get it. So it's, all of a sudden it's like, a shot of people building, and then Arnett with, and remember, you have 3.5 hours and you'll get an extra $1 or whatever, he says. That was spot on Arnett, my friend. Hire me to ADR stuff that it's beneath him. Anyway, yeah. So I get it. I get it, and I think this is gonna go into deep water. But when I was younger, whatever year FX The Deadly Art of Illusion came out, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I was in a test audience for FX The Deadly Art of Illusion, and I was like one of 3 people who hated it. It was a terrible movie. And when it came out, they made it worse. Nobody in the movie got the plot, which wasn't particularly difficult. But then they made all these edits because of all the stupids, and it made it a way worse movie. It was already a bad movie, and then they made it a terrible movie. and that's kind of the feeling I got from a lot of the criticism of Madame Web was something went terribly wrong in the screenings, and then they had to course correct, and they may or may not have done a good job course correcting it,
or even in the dailies. I mean,
or the dailies, or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure. That's the worst, most damning thing that I kind of gleaned from all of the haters hating on it, was something went terribly awry with this complicated premise of a movie, and man, they backpedaled hard.
Yeah, I think the biggest plot point,
spoilers,
kind of, is yes, you are right, but also just once you see the movie in your context, it's like you can't really spoil this movie. But like,
again, it's either going to be adhering close to the comic books, and what's going to happen if you're a comic fan, or you're going to know what's going to happen if you're a comic book movie fan, because they are not, again, like Westerns.
Yes.
It's like it's, unless it's a revisionist Western, the bad guy's not going to win.
So the premise is she's not Madame Web yet, but Cassie, Dakota Johnson, she's protecting the 3 girls who are supposed to eventually be Spider Women from this bad guy. And so there's a sequence in the movie where they're tucked away and she's going to take care of business. Now, the whole premise of the bad guy is that he has surveillance all over the city, run by Shosh from Girls, by the way, which was hilarious. But there's like this whole interlude where she goes to Peru, and people rightfully are like, well, how does she escape the city? How does she escape early 2000s post 9/11 New York
Right.
without surveilled? And totally valid.
Sure.
Totally. But here's the thing: I love the audaciousness of absurdity in movie. It's why I love the giallo genre.
Sure.
It's why Phenomena is my favorite Argento, because it's a girls' boarding school, daughter of Al Pacino, even though they don't call him Al Pacino in the script. It's supposed to be Al Pacino's daughter. There's Donald Pleasance in a wheelchair studying bugs. There's a chimpanzee brandishing a straight razor. Like,
As you do.
it's got a Motorhead on the soundtrack. Like, these are the things that, and that's what Madam Web is. It's like Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney and Zosia Mamet and Emma Roberts and like all these people who don't probably belong in a superhero movie, and and this writer director, first time feature female director, who's mainly done like prestige television. I think it was, at least in Britain, it was prestige television. I'd have to check the resume again. And like she's helming this superhero movie and getting into the early 2000s of it all, and like and
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott and Cranberries coming in at the end and making me emotional, like, because R.I.P. Dolores. But like,
I know.
Like, it's just so absurd. I love it.
That's the thing, is again, like a Western, like any genre movie, it's if you're gonna knock a genre movie for being a genre movie, you've already lost that fight.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you're not, excuse me, sir, this is an Arby's. like what are you axing for here? It's Life on Mars. That is, she did some episodes of Dexter.
Oh, okay.
And the good Dexter, not the weird crappy Dexter. Dexter Revisited. She did Whitechapel. That was a good one. Yeah. So yeah, she's done some decent. She did Banshee. She did. Yeah. I'll give her props.
Yeah.
EastEnders. She did 8 episodes of EastEnders.
There you go.
Orange is the New Black. Yeah. Is this writing or directing?
Director.
Yes, directing. Yeah, no. She wrote an episode of Jessica Jones.
That's that is like one of the bleakest shows I think I've ever watched.
It really is, man.
For even if you take it apart from being a Marvel show, like, it was bleak.
Yeah, it was kind of like they took what's her face and Kristen Ritter, and they're like, hey, you know how that turn you did in Breaking Bad as Jesse's heroin addicted girlfriend that Walter White, sorry, spoilers, that Walter White murders essentially by letting her OD. Let's make something worse. Because you're right. Like, that whole thing is, props to David Tennant for being super fucking evil.
Yeah.
But man, that whole thing was redonkulously bleak.
Yeah. When I watched Smile a couple of years ago, it reminded me of that because of the kind of forced self-harm thing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's super gross. It's super gross and super evil, and zero redeeming value from the David Tennant's character, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll be going to a Phoenix Mercury game, which will be fun. It's my second.
Nice.
I do love the WNBA. Fun stuff. And then other than that,
you've liked it since before it was cool, man. But it's always been pretty cool. But you liked it before all these other
Here's the thing, and this is something I had written down about, like, oh, we're returning to the show 10 years later, and there's a lot of stuff we used to talk about on the show, and there's things that aren't interests of mine anymore. But it's like, what did I replace that with? And one of the things is sports. Oddly enough, we had a conversation on the old show about how I didn't really see it, and Ron Babcock, comedian, Muppet Babies editor, and all sorts of avenues of success for Ron since we've last talked to him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you have to appreciate the story of it all. And I totally, like, I moved back to Arizona. I had a coworker who was like, do you watch wrestling? I'm like, oh, I grew up watching wrestling. And we used to make wrestling references on the show, but oh, you have to see this Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura match. And like, I've just been off to the races since then. Like, I've stayed watching wrestling in all its incarnations and companies over the last couple of years. I know that's not technically sports, but also watching sports.
Oh no,
that's from having
I mean, no, just because it's scripted doesn't mean it's not athletic. I mean, that's the thing, is look at the shoulders, knees, and backs of all of wrestling's, the journeyman wrestlers, not even to mention the stars, but yeah, definitely don't discount, don't discount wrestling just because it's theater.
Yeah, exactly.
That's well, plus, no one's got better kayfabe than the WNBA.
That's true.
They stick to it. Brittany Griner going to Russian prison for the sake. No, just kidding. That was terrible, and that was a terrible joke. I regret saying it, but it works in context. So
in context.
Yeah. So surprisingly, see, I'm sure we talked about it back in the day, but a big Dodgers fan, hometown team thing, but I was never like I would watch games with my grandpa. We'd watch boxing. Those are kind of the two sports we did. My wife, massive Dodgers fan. I've watched more games with her than I had in the previous 50 years of my life.
Yeah.
Good on her. Like, I don't mind. I think especially given the fact that they've done a lot of things to speed up the game. It's a lot less painful than it used to be. The pitch clock has made baseball. If you think baseball's boring, it is no longer boring. As a matter of fact, the games that we've gone to since they introduced the pitch clock, like 100% of the time, like, my kids will be like, can I have a soda? And I'll be like, oh, I'll get a soda. So I go up and get like peanuts and a soda. And by the time I get back, it's like, what happened? Like, oh yeah, 2 innings have gone by. I'm like, come on, man. Paid like $50 for this seat. Anyway. Yeah. I used to be big into wrestling when I was younger. I mean, back in the Roddy Piper, Hulkamania, Honor the Giant days. I guess I just don't seek it out. And maybe that might be a thing that Fletcher might get into, because he's definitely he's getting into that. I want to take boxing, Dad.
You're in the perfect town for it, because you could go have Benny the Jet teach him.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. See, the problem here is we told him he wanted to play football, and I'm like, no son of mine is going to get traumatic head injuries. And then he's like, I want to box, and I'm like, well, you understand that chances are you're going to be punching a punching bag and not sparring. But it is definitely that age, the 12, 13-year-old, where he wants to take badass things. I get it. Yeah. So yeah, we could do kickboxing, BJJ stuff,
all that good stuff. I mean, that's what I was looking, I went to a lot of those schools when I was there. Now I live in, this little town, and there's a couple, like, there's actually quite a couple jiu-jitsu schools. Can't do
Probably
that
got a
with
lot of
my knees nowadays. There's no boxing. I would have to
prob-
drive like an hour away for boxing. I've looked.
probably got a lot of like axe handle fighting, beer bottle skills. Oh, my head. Yeah, I mean, well, LA is the center of the universe, as everyone is aware. Sorry, Manhattan. Why would I stir that?
Don't pick a fight. Wait, this East Coast, West Coast.
That would be our there's our YouTube fodder.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manhattan. No, I love New York, as I was taught in the 70s.
New York's all right.
It's fine.
If you like that.
No, it is. It's if you like.
I love New York. I haven't been in some time, but
yeah, it's been. Well, I didn't have kids, so 15 plus years since I've been in NYC. Yeah. And we were in Manhattan the whole time, except for landing at the airport and driving through the outer boroughs to Manhattan, and that was it. So I haven't spent a lot of time in Queens and the Bronx, in Brooklyn, except, like I said, being at the airport.
Ryan McKee came back to Phoenix because he was in New York for a while.
Oh yeah,
back in LA. Now Ryan's back in Phoenix now. Yeah, it's funny to watch. Track everybody. I know Virginia Jones is leaving LA, going back to the Pacific Northwest.
The beautiful Pacific Northwest. Yeah, she's been putting out a lot of content lately, and I didn't pick up on that. I guess I sporadically see. It's a fire hose. It's a content fire hose. But I've seen her doing a lot of Insta stuff on the Instagrams. The instant grandma.
I know there was a bit of an exodus to Austin. Bob Schreiner is in Austin now.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And for some years now. Libby Ward, who is also a friend of ours, she's in LA still.
As far as I know, she's like down the street from me. And again, it's been like every time something's going on, I'm like, yeah, hey, I gotta take my son to 700 baseball practices.
So you're gonna say 700 Club for some reason.
The 700 Club. He's a huge Pat Robertson fan. He is really, really big. Is Pat Robertson dead? He's dead, right? Yes.
Thankfully.
Oh, I forgot how about my relief at that.
Rush Limbaugh too.
Yeah, Limbaugh. A lot of people. So I've been seeing a lot of. So let's make this political, because man, that doesn't. That's not a problem. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the upcoming election and how everything is terrible, and someone pointed out the Bush 2 Al Gore, that was when everything went to hell. And I'm like, Rush Limbaugh, the Rush Limbaugh Newt Gingrich era of none shall pass, Republican bullshittery, conservative bullshittery, and Limbaugh launching the idea that you can treat conservatives to demagoguery and they will eat that shit up.
Yeah.
That I think is people aren't going far enough back. There's that long-standing tradition of yellow journalism that it's like all of a sudden we turned the clock back 100 years to billionaire trusts. Sure, it was multimillionaires back then, but that was the equivalent of a billionaire. to yellow journalism, to William Randolph Hearst, and controlling the media and the message, and it's like, I think the thing we're really truly missing is, I feel like all the rich people are assholes now, and not we don't have a Teddy Roosevelt who's like, you know what, I'm rich enough and I don't care if anyone wait, I should put my so here, now I will put my pince nez on to do my Teddy Roosevelt. So yeah, so I can actually let me curl my mustachios. Yeah, so there's the difference is there's no Teddy Roosevelt yet to say, I'm rich and I don't care, we're gonna make these rich people pay the right amount of taxes, and that's the tax the rich, like a 30%, 40%, 25% like tax on people over $1 billion, like tax companies, tax corporations, like the amount of bullshit about trickle down economics.
Oh yeah,
it's failed. And like I said, we've gone back 100 years in social policies, in financial policies, and it's goddamn ridiculous. It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I live in what was historically a red state, which now they say has gone more blue because
it's purple.
Yeah, the dying off of the old population. And I always had said Phoenix was the for as much as I trashed Phoenix last week, it is where I grew up, and it is where I came up in a scene, and that scene was definitely full of people with a more progressive view. Not all of them, there's still your
reactionaries.
Oh yeah,
counter-revolutionary wreckers, as Stalin would say.
Sure.
Yeah, let's bring Stalin into this conversation. Iron Joe, Man of Steel. Anyway, sorry. That's what we need. We need a man like Stalin in charge. Oh, I can barely say that as a joke. Anyway, well, as Stevo said, if you live in a small town, you might meet a dozen or two young alien types who step up and dare to declare that they're through being cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I feel like, well, it's borne out also by polling and things like that there's pretty much a hardcore about 35% of the population that are, I'm going to say it, fucking morons. They are simply a bunch of fucking idiots. And whatever brand of idiocy they espouse, whether it's Trumpism or anti-vaxism or anti-sciencism or anti-ladiesism or whatever it is.
YouTube movie reviews.
YouTube movie reviewers. Yeah, I mean, Andrew fans, sorry, bleep that fucker's name out. Whatever it is, there's a hardcore 35% of the population that are dumb fucks, and their dumb fuckery will continue regardless of whatever information that they are have flow over their smooth brains. Yeah. Whatever lack of whatever they lack or have too much of is going to just continue. And half the country are reasonable individuals. The other 15-20% are undecided, which I think might even be worse. like I'm not, it does seem like Donald Trump is a fascist. Bleep that fucker's name out too. It does seem like he's a fascist, but let's hold off on judging By the way, it is D-Day today. When a bunch of Antifa, allied Antifa groups decided not to listen to the extreme right and didn't give them their due, and instead resorted to violence. And that, I think, we need to have a moment of silence for the giving people their opinions, the weight that they're due. And that, I think, really is the casualty of June 6th, is not giving people their God-given right to speak out about their terrible opinions.
In
Anyway.
marketplace of ideas, some things are just not going to sell.
Yeah, it's like, here's a boot filled with liquid vomit. like who wants that? Well, all right, well, again, we back to not yucking someone's yum, but still, generally speaking, someone pops a nice chalky in their mouth, they don't expect to get their cheeks pierced. Deep cuts from Monty Python. Yeah, it's super weird to me. It's super weird to me that we're back to a place where the people who believe that life is a zero-sum game have obviously not had to deal with human life the way it really is. It's been that way. There's been an undercurrent of it for a long time, but the idea that there are folks that most of my family is either dead or smart. I'm not necessarily going to count myself in the smart category. I think I'm okay, but there are people who are related to people that I am married to,
Okay.
who are hardworking folks, and I fear that they haven't figured out that we're one big human race, right? Mm-hmm. And people deserve happiness and food and security and housing. And how would you not want that to happen for everyone?
Right.
As a people, as a human people. I don't begrudge. Look, it's Pride Month. I don't begrudge anyone happiness. There is a narrow line of people who are sexually attracted to children and young teens that I do begrudge that happiness to. But other than that, other than consent issues, I don't begrudge anyone happiness. And I certainly don't begrudge people food, shelter, and security, health and healthcare.
Yeah. And self-expression.
And freedom of self-expression. Yes, exactly. Yeah. To me, that's a subset of security. Yeah. To me, that's you're comfortable and secure enough to have those things on the Maslow scale that aren't food and air. It's right. Like you get the whole pyramid. You get both the dessert items at the top of the food pyramid, and you get the freedom of expression stuff at the top of the pyramid as well.
Yeah.
On both the discredited food pyramid and the less discredited Maslow scale of things you need to be a human being pyramid. Yeah. So I just don't get it. That to me, now I am not vapor locked. I am not vapor locked to the point of I radically accept reality. And I know there are people there that do think that, what was it I posted the other day? That, Guatemalan grandmothers are coming, MS-13 Guatemalan grandmothers are showing up in caravans at our borders in order to come into our country and take care of babies and clean motels. Like, I don't understand, I get there are people who believe that sort of nonsense
Yeah.
because they don't have any brains in their head. No, they because that's what they're exposed to. They're exposed to that propaganda and bullshit. But man, I it bugs me. It really does bother me because there's to me a clear through line of being a reasonable human being, you know.
Yeah. I think where it's gotten worse for me to witness, because I'm like I said, I'm very used to a certain conservative lean in the state that I grew up in. And it was, the scene that I came up in was a refuge from that. And then moving to Los Angeles, however many years ago now, we're coming up on 20 years. It was like, oh, these are all the people who also got away from their town and wanted to, do something involving, this industry. Not the only reason I came there, but it was a big factor. And there was the conservative enclave of Orange County, but for the most part, people were progressively minded. But it was pretty clear who the opposition was. And unfortunately, as I got older and was involved in more counterculture movements and to some extent activist movements, I know we talked about this at the time of Occupy, there was a predilection for kind of recreating some of the same hierarchies and prejudices on the left. And I'm still not one of those people who say, the left's as bad as the right. I've never believed that. I also don't believe everybody on the right is bad. Some of them are just very misguided. But to see now people on the left parrot certain moralism and things like that the right kind of created that rhetoric. One of the big things that I was talking about on the social media timeline this week was, there were some less than stellar actors who are coming back in the limelight with new projects and things like that. And people like, hey, did we forget that they're an abuser, or they're, some have even, so this was the thing that made me mad, was somebody who was like clearly on the left. And this was like a queer Black person who said this. They said, oh, everyone in Hollywood is a predator. And I was like, no, that's not true. Like, yes, there's a subset of male actors and directors and movie producers who are scummy. And well, scummy is too nice a word. Like, they are predators. You're right.
Yeah, they're criminals. They're actual criminals.
Yes. But, to then jump to the whole, like, what I say, pizza parlor, adrenochrome nonsense of like, oh, they're all predators. I didn't call them out specifically on it. I was going to fight them on it. I know they were being a little bit hyperbolic, but no, like, that's things that the right have been saying forever about the liberal left and the Hollywood liberals, and like, oh yeah, they're all.
You mean the Jews, Brodie?
There's that too, yeah. Like
liberal elite.
Liberal elite.
What's the 30 Rock line? Just say Jews, Jack. I don't have a lot of time. Yeah.
Certainly there's people I worked with that I didn't get along with. And certainly there's people I worked with that, yeah, I mean, that's it, but
being a dick isn't a crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Treating people poorly, it's a crime in as much as if it makes an unsafe or what do you call it? Hostile work environment. Thank you, man. I gotta go drink some more artificially sweetened sodas because my brain hasn't quite rotted yet from the inside. Yeah, hostile work environment, that sort of thing. Yeah, being a dick is bad for your karma, but unless you're a boss and you're making everyone's life miserable, it's not. It doesn't rise to criminality.
Yeah.
And not liking someone, I've worked with a lot of people that I don't. I would say I worked with a lot of people that I can't stand. There's probably a handful of people that I wish ill, and that says a lot. I mean, literally, like 3 people that I can think of in my previous careers. That I every time I think of them, I'm like, my grandfather used to curse in Yiddish. Yeah, as a swachen benefis, you should break both legs.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing, where it's like, I wish you ill. Otherwise I'm Mo Sislak, where I'm a well wisher that I don't wish you any specific harm.
Yeah. in the span of my career in television, I only had 2 people who were in a supervisory role over me. There was like a couple annoying people here and there.
Yeah.
There's only 2 I can think of at the moment. And I really don't wish them all that ill. I think they had their own problems. The 2 people who were like total jerks in a supervisory position, one is dead and the other got fired for doing my job wrong while I was away one day with my, at the time, newborn son. And I had, like I said, those quality control roles, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was given something to QC while I wasn't there, and he screwed it up, and it aired wrong, and it was UFC, and Dana White's not somebody you want to kind of happy.
Whoopsie daisy.
He got fired, and it was kind of, everybody was like, we've been complaining about him being a jerk and a bully for years, but if this is what it takes, great. And I felt so like I still held some resentment. It was actually when I had found out the other dude had died, I was like, that's sad, and I don't know how it happened. I have some guesses, and I have no reason to hold contempt. We'll don't speak ill of the dead, let them rest, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, it's like, well, I don't want him to die. I don't. And he got fired anyway. So I can't hold, and then in my career since television, I've had people I don't like or didn't get along with, or made my job hard, or even led me to have to leave a company. And it's whatever. I think I spoke a little bit about this last episode. Like, I am too old now to carry that kind of contempt with me. It's just not healthy.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at too, is again, it's as the older I get, the more I realize, I mean, some people veer into that, like, well, obviously gay people should all die and Mexicans are horrible and whatever, in that racist thing where I don't know if it's fear or anger or whatever that turns you into a horrible person.
Yeah.
Or you get older and you're like, again, why do I care?
Right.
Why, what skin off of my nose is it that people have? It's like the welfare queens thing. It's like,
oh God, yeah.
That's like, it's like, that's welfare fraud exists and crime exists, but why, it's such a tiny percentage. I've been on food stamps and I couldn't get hot food on food stamps. It's like the amount of people who just want a hot meal grossly outweigh the people who are trying to get something for nothing.
Yeah.
And even if 1% or 2% or 5% of people are scamming the system, the 95% of people who just need a hot meal, like, what's the 80-20 rule? We're not even in the 80-20 rule.
Right.
We're in the 95-5 rule. And it's like, if billionaires paid their taxes, I wouldn't give a flying flip if 1% of the quote welfare queens out there got a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Give everybody a Cadillac. We got enough money to give everyone a Cadillac. You know, there's enough. The United States makes enough money to give everyone a Cadillac. If we taxed billionaires, everyone could have a home, and you know, and everybody, you know, everybody could have security. Yeah. Why waste your energy hating on people? Like I said, that's why there's only a couple people that I'm like, if I saw their obituary, I'd be like, good, moving on.
Yeah.
But I got kids and I got things to do. You know, I'm not going to spend any. But anyway, tell me how you got away with murdering that person you didn't like. We're not recording this, right? This is not being recorded. This isn't going into the.
We were just talking before the show.
No, just no. That was a joke, everybody. It was a joke. So yeah. Just one more, just Mr. Hubbard, just one more thing. Hey, call back to Kevin Pollak, one of our first celebrity guests.
Yeah, he was very generous with his time. And
lovely fellow.
I've been also meaning to ask you because I saw the RoboDoc. How's your friend?
The RoboDoc.
Yeah, I saw RoboCop RoboDoc.
Oh, Dr. Peter Weller.
Yeah, I thought he also had a turn on Sons of Anarchy, and I think that was after I moved away. But
what did I see him in recently? I haven't seen him in a while. He used to go to the cigar show. He used to show up at the cigar show. I haven't seen him lately. I need to ask some of my Grand Havana club guys. I haven't seen him in a while, but it's good to see him getting work. You know, Dr. Peter Weller.
Yeah, he's so good in that documentary. If you get a chance to watch the whole thing,
he is another one of those national treasures. And as far as I am concerned, all of my interactions with him have been hilarious and pleasant.
Yeah.
You know, he's definitely, you know, he's the kind of fellow that knows that life is an absurd thing, and that acting in things got him the money and time to get a doctorate in Italian Renaissance art. Like that joke. Is there a doctor in the house? Yeah, but only if you want to know about Renaissance Italian painters. Yeah, Peter Weller's a cool cat in my book. God, you know, I hate saying stuff like that because God forbid something comes out of the woodwork, but I don't think that.
No, he's good. Well, I have a lot of bleeping and editing to go do, so
do it.
I will be on the text with you in a moment, and I will be happily on the video on the Shakeytown radio with you again soon.
Righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
Here, I'll do some.
Just wait for it to cut us off.
Yeah. All right, man. I gotta get something to eat.
Me too.
Right. Bye.
We are back on the YouTube channel. We are back in the podcast feed, and we are also on social media on X and on Instagram at Shakeytown Radio. There's a blue sky as well, so check that out and read up all on the archives at shakeytownradio.com.